What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a massive showcase of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Yes, I used her full legal name. And just how crazy she is for the skill class. I'm going to be going over a plethora of different skill defenders throughout the CCP testing map and showing both the short and medium form content scenario fights with NTW, just to show off how insane she is for the skill class and sort of revitalize the idea that she is a relevant and worthwhile champion for you to consider investing in. But before we get into that, let's take a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is a free-to-play mobile RPG that transports you into a world of Marvel heroes and Marvel villains. Using my links down in the description box below or in the top left-hand corner of the screen, you can download Marvel Strike Force absolutely for free and get yourself a copy of Captain America Sam Wilson using the brand new promo code SAM, capital S-A-M, to get a free copy of Captain America Sam Wilson for the celebration of the release Marvel's Captain America Brave New World. You can recruit up to 17 brand new heroes within your first 30 days of playing Marvel Strike Force, with many characters such as Spider-Man, Deadpool, Venom, Wolverine, and so many more joining your roster. Your goal in Marvel Strike Force is to strengthen your team by completing missions, gain resources from arenas and events, and challenge other players in PvP content such as Alliance War or Alliance Raids. I'm showing you some Blitz gameplay right now, but you should play the game mode that you enjoy the most because that's how you get the best out of Marvel Strike Force. New characters are constantly being added to Marvel Strike Force, including the Liberty Team, which consists of the Patriot, Captain America Sam Wilson, Falcon Joaquin Torres, and Peggy Carter. You're seeing some Captain America Sam Wilson and Peggy Carter gameplay right now, but of course you can access all of these characters for free playing Marvel Strike Force this month. You don't want to miss out. Additionally, if you're looking for skins and cosmetics outside of the Liberty Team and the celebration for Captain America Brave New World, you can access skins from Marvel TV shows, Marvel comics, movies, and so much more. Marvel Strike Force is a continuously growing game that cares about its player base. The models are visually unique, and the gameplay flows exceptionally well for a mobile game. If you're looking to get into the world of Marvel, jump headfirst into a new Marvel mobile game, Marvel Strike Force is a wonderful place to start. Thank you again to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to use the links down in the description box below or the QR code in the top left-hand corner to get yourself a free copy of Captain America Sam Wilson using the promo code SAM. Thank you again to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. Thank you again to Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. Now, NTW destroying the skill class. Let's just get right into it. She is an absolute menace. She can completely and utterly destroy skill defenders with relative ease. Most of the skill champions in the entire game are susceptible to her tricks, so most of them are not immune to Incinerate, and most of them have some ability, like more relevant skill champions have an ability to shrug off debuffs, but nothing to do with passives, right? So NTW, her whole kit is based around passives. She only has 3 offensive abilities. She has the stun, the incinerate, and the incinerate vulnerability. That is all she has on offense, right? So she doesn't have anything else. Those are the only 3 things. And for a champion with 3 offensive abilities, in terms of, dealing damage and accessing the opponent to be able to hit them, she's pretty wild. Obviously, you're going to see in future clips here that she's a lot more than just 3 abilities. She has a lot of solid utility baked into the kit, and we'll go over that as we get to it. But I wanted to show off a short and medium fight of every relevant defender in the skill class in the entire game. Now, I'm not going to show off the long form, like Everest style fight with her, because that's not really her forte. It's not really what she's made for. Can she do it? Sure, she can do it and she can handle it just fine, but it's not exactly what she's made for. Like, it's not the domain that she's supposed to be playing in. The domain she's supposed to be playing in is short and medium form fights. 250,000 health to around 550,000 health. That's where she really shines. That's where you can just get the maximum use out of her. Obviously, those incinerates go up to 40, so you can stack them up to the max number and see some extremely solid damage from the incinerates taken over time. But for the most part, there are much better options to use in Ever-style content than NTW, where she does work, and I would not say she's awful for it. She's not necessarily the greatest. She'll do fine. She'll do as fine as any other character that can stack up a lot of damage over time. But this is where she really shines, in these short to medium form fights. So those were 2 Bullseye fights, one with 300,000 health and one with 460,000 health, both of them in less than a minute. Now we have a rank 3 7-star Korg, and again, it's just going to be the same sort of thing. Most of the short fights for NTW are around 40 seconds, whereas most of the medium form fights go just over a minute, you know, a minute 5, minute 10. And that's it. That's really it. So she has the reach for all of these fights, and even higher. You know, she can go higher. It's just I didn't want to show every single 1 million health pool champion on the lane, because this video would be like 45 minutes long, so I don't want to do that. I just wanted to show her off, destroying the skill class like she was intended to do, because my goodness does she dismantle this class. She just turns everything off and shuts down all potential threats. So there's nothing that most skill champions can do to stop her. The only champ that I can think of, and I have a showcase of him in this video, that can stop NTW is Nick Fury, because he removes all effects in his LMD. But outside of that, there's a handful of situations where NTW gets stopped. She really is a mutant beast. She just completely dominates the skill class. It's sort of like, I don't want to say it's exactly the relationship with Torch and Mystics, but it's very similar. It's an extremely similar relationship with just how dominant she is and just how overwhelmingly useful she can be for skilled defenders of any kind. It doesn't even have to be the annoying ones, you know? There's champions like Taskmaster who just go immune to debuffs. It doesn't matter for NTW. She just inflicts all passives, so it's irrelevant for champions like Taskmaster, because his one key weakness is that he goes immune to all debuffs, but she gets around that because she is all passive. And not to mention, the passive stun that she has, it allows for double medium combos into a fresh combo. So it's sort of wild. She has a built-in White Magneto pre-fight, just built into her kit. That in and of itself is extremely, extremely valuable, just to have that passive stun all the time. She is quite the champ, man. She really is. So this 500,000 health Korg is about to bite the dust here in, I think that was a minute and 8 seconds. Yeah, a minute and 8 seconds, so 68 seconds for a rank 3 Korg. Very easy, very simple. She just gets the job done, man. She gets it done efficiently, and she gets it done simply, too. She's very easy to use. There's not a lot of finesse involved with NTW. She's just use your heavy attack, go to your special 2, and then spam your special 1. Or if you really want to, just spam your special 1. You can do that, too, and max out your incinerates that way. You don't have to even go for your special 2. The special 2 is just there to significantly increase the ramp time, so you're not throwing 9 special 1s, you're throwing maybe 1 special 2 and 5 special 1s or something like that, so you don't have to spend your time always throwing special 1s. But you can see that her base damage is so astronomically high for the character model that she is. You know, she's a small character model with a super high, I think, a base attack and critical damage rating. I think her critical rating is also fairly high. So you're seeing basically 10k crits on these mediums and 6k crits on these light attacks. That has absolutely zero to do with her incinerate damage or her, yeah, her incinerate damage. That has nothing to do with her incinerate damage. That's the only source of damage she has outside of her basic hits. So the fact that she's hitting relatively hard on her basics and her specials, combined with the fact that she has very solid incinerate damage and can increase it by, you know, a maximum of 40 stacks. She's just a jack of all trades. She just works in so many different situations for the skill class. Now, one thing that is not really getting properly shown here, or at least it's not immediately recognizable, should I say, is that NTW, all of her hits are non-contact energy hits. So what that means is she takes no damage from Thorns. Additionally, she takes no damage from Korg's Rock Shield, if you weren't noticing in the prior fight. Because her hits deal energy damage, she wouldn't take damage anyway, but the fact that it's energy damage and it's non-contact, she gets around Korg and she gets around Atuma. The one thing about Atuma that kind of is annoying is at a certain stack of hydration, Atuma goes immune to Incinerate. So he will shrug off all of the passive Incinerates that NTW places. But it's honestly no big deal because we're not taking any Thorns damage. We're not taking any meaningful damage from some sort of Reflect in Atuma's kit. We can parry him safely, which means we don't have to worry about the shrug off from Atuma's like debuff shrugging. We don't have to worry about that. NTW, even in that matchup where Atuma's maybe shrugging off those Incinerates, she still does just fine. So the name of the game for most matchups, if you haven't already caught on, is you want to start with a heavy attack as quickly as possible. That heavy attack Incinerate vulnerability is 50% potency, which means your Incinerates are going to be dealing around 50% more damage than they would. I'm not sure how it scales with diminishing returns and how it actually modifies the Incinerate, but a 50% Incinerate potency is definitely something you want to keep track of. So as you can see, Nick Fury is already at 30% health. I haven't even used my special 2. All I've done is spam my special 1, and that's exactly what I'm going to do for this fight. I'm just going to spam my special 1, and then once Fury goes into his second stage, then I'm going to throw my special 2, and then I'm going to burst him down with those Incinerates. So now he's in his second phase. I'm trying to go for one more intercept so I can push him to special 2 with my special 2. Go for the mash block. I use 2 fingers to mash the block because I'm not super good at button mashing with just 1 finger. So now Nick Fury has almost 20 Incinerates, and he is just ticking away, and that's 2 lives. You know, it's not easy to take down Fury's plural, Fury's lives, and stay that healthy. Wasn't the fastest fight, and I'm not going to show you the longer Fury fight because it's just roughly the same thing. It's the same strategy. But NTW, she can definitely handle it. So I don't know why that fight was out of order. That was the other Killmonger. But now we have Killmonger, one of her best matchups in my opinion. Killmonger's super annoying, and the debuff application clause that he has in his kit just makes him super hard to manage for a lot of champions that rely on placing debuffs. If you don't have armor break, you can't shut off that vibranium armor. NTW doesn't care about any of that at all. She literally ignores all of it. All of her stuff is passive, all of her hits are non-contact, so she's not even worried about taking any sort of reverberation damage in the slightest. The one thing about NTW, and this isn't even an NTW problem, this is a Relic problem. The one thing that I don't like is how the Relic can sometimes take the Thorns damage or the reverberation damage. It's not her hits, but it should be considered her hits because it's her Relic. Now, this is an issue that has happened with, like, Chieelth and Sentry in the past, where Relics aren't obeying the grit or the halts that that the champions are applying to the opponent or that they have on themselves. So I might make a report and just say, hey, her Relic shouldn't be taking Thorns damage because it doesn't make sense. But that's besides the point. We absolutely melted that Killmonger in around, again, 40 seconds. The short fights for NTW are going to be around 40 seconds. The medium fights for NTW are going to be around a minute 10, sometimes a minute 15, depending on the matchup. But even then, you know, less than 90 seconds for 500,000 health against these extremely tricky defenders is nothing to scoff at. I think NTW has not necessarily fallen out of the sphere of relevance, but I don't think as many people have her or are willing to use her, and because of that, she doesn't get nearly as much attention as she deserves. Because I perceive NTW as sort of a mutant version of Shuri. She just has so much utility for the skill class, so much that she just gets around because of how her kit works. And the way she deals damage is primarily damage over time, but she has strong basic hits as well. And that just screams Shuri. It's literally just a concept of Shuri, like the skeleton of Shuri, placed into a mutant character with a different damage type. That's how I view NTW for the most part. It's just a mutant version of Shuri. Now, I don't think she has as much reach as Shuri because she doesn't have, like, ability accuracy, modification, immunity, and stuff like that. But for the most part, I see NTW as a mutant class Shuri, and I would hope people would agree with me in that sentiment because it makes sense when you think about it. It really does. So now we have a rank 3 7-star Kingpin. He's not even available as a 7-star, but you know, in questing content and other content where we're facing 7-star defenders, Kingpin will certainly rear his ugly bald head one way or another. So NTW handles him just fine. It has been quite a journey of Kingpin as a defender, just to see how many characters absolutely annihilate him and how many characters will continue to annihilate him in the future because of like passive punishment or placing only passives like NTW, or, you know, debuff replacement going into a passive, stuff like that. So it's really funny how Kingpin has sort of fallen off the sphere of relevance for defense for the most part. But this is a rank 3 Kingpin, and again, we only have half of our incinerates built up, and NTW just handles that fight. 45 seconds, no big deal. Now we're going to go fight the bigger Kingpin. I think he has around 500,000 health. Yeah, 529 to be specific. We'll call it 530 for the sake of simplicity. And again, it's the same sort of thing. The one glaring thing about NTW that I can see people not necessarily liking is how repetitive she is. She sort of does the same thing in every single matchup, and there's not a lot of variation to go along with her playstyle. It's pretty cut and dry what you're supposed to do. And you know what, for champions like her, I don't mind that because how effective she is at what she does. And, you know, you can obviously spice it up a little bit by just throwing special 1s, just throwing special 2s, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, she doesn't have a lot of variation in her playstyle, and that's likely her only downside is she doesn't have variation in the playstyle. So if the only downside for a character is that they're too good at what they do, that they can't do anything else, not really a huge downside. It's more like a benefit if you look at it that way. She's so good at what she does that changing her loop would be actually harmful. So it just makes sense to stick to her rudimentary loop and not stray off the beaten path, because for her specifically, it makes sense to just stick to it because she is very good at what she does. She does not need to do some fancy shenanigans with an alternate rotation. She's just that girl, you know, she's just that girl. So that's a rank 3 Kingpin, 1 minute 18 seconds. Obviously, there's, you know, the increased combat power right there for Kingpin, so it's going to be a lot less enjoyable to fight him because we have to be baiting more special attacks, but for the most part, she handled that just fine. Now we have Baron Zemo, another champion that's sort of fallen off in terms of relevance, although still a very good character, and honestly should be a 7-star at this point. Zemo's pretty sick. Zemo is another champion that punishes debuffs, but when your name is Negasonic Teenage Warhead and you only inflict passives, that doesn't matter in the slightest. So all we need to do here is make sure we don't miss the heavy counter like we did there on the special 1, and just throw either only special 1s or throw special 2s, whatever the case may be. You can really ramp her however you want. It's either you throw special 1s or you throw special 2s. At the end of the day, those are the only two options. It's either you throw a special 1 or you throw a special 2. That's the end of the day. That is the game plan with NTW. So now we're up to 17 incinerates, and Zemo's health is ticking down slowly but surely. And of course, her basic hits are dealing almost 10k on that medium crit and nearly 7k on the light crit. So she does very, very well in terms of the base damage department. So she has nothing to worry about there. Now we have the higher ranked Zemo, the rank 3 7-star Zemo still, but it is just a higher ranked version. I don't know why I was pausing there. Must have been looking at something or some sort of announcement. But now we have the higher ranked Zemo, so we're doing the same thing. We're getting the heavy attack off at the start of the fight, so you get the incinerate vulnerability. Now I'm just trying to land an opening with Zemo here. He's just being a little stingy, dashing back quite a bit. He's just being a coward, that's all. He's scared of NTW. He's just being a little bit of a coward, but it's totally good now. All I need to do is continue to keep that incinerate vulnerability topped up and ensure that it doesn't fall off. Throw my special 2 here to max out the incinerates that I can place, so he's up to 21, and I think some of them are going to fall off here because I don't have enough time to get the refresh in, but that's totally fine. I take some unnecessary chip damage here. Definitely did not need to take that chip damage, but it is what it is. It's totally fine. In a real situation, taking that level of chip damage would be okay, because you still have plenty of health, you still have damage being dealt to him passively, you have nothing to worry about in terms of thorns, you are basically fine. You're basically fine. Now, there is one thing that I would have liked to have seen for NTW, and that would be immunity to incinerate. she does not have any immunities at all. So the fact that she has like 0 immunities is kind of sad because it makes sense to get at least give her incinerate immunity, but she doesn't have that. She does not have incinerate immunity at all, even though she is literally made of fire basically, and she exerts fire from her body. It is what it is. That's maybe the only real downside. The other one was sort of a subjective downside, but maybe that's the only real downside, is she does not have any single immunities. So, yeah. She reduces the potency of the opponent's damaging effects if their skill, like Bleed, True Strike, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. So she can reduce the ability accuracy of debuffs, which is great, but it doesn't constitute for immunities, you know? It does not constitute for actually being immune to said effects, you know? Like, if she was immune to Bleed and immune to Incinerate, that'd be great. Or just even immune to Incinerate would be amazing, but I rest my case. She's not getting balanced. She has already gone through her rebalancing period, and she got away unscathed, which I'm happy about, because I was a little concerned that she may have gotten a little bit of a tune down because of how effective she is for the skill class, but no. They left her as is, and honestly, I'm thrilled because she's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, you can notice it in this fight specifically, but one of the things that she reduces the ability accuracy of is true effects. So Mole Man typically has a true accuracy effect prior to hitting 10 monster mass. It is nowhere to be seen because she is reducing the ability accuracy of it. So he just can't trigger it at all. Which means if I wanted to go for an evade, I could go for an evade. You saw me do it in the Korg fight where I charged my heavy attack after taking a blocked hit, and Korg hit into me, and then I evaded. So you can definitely use the evade offensively. I don't really see a great use for it. Obviously, the heavy charge guaranteeing that the evade will happen is nice, but for the most part, she's a little on the squishy side, so taking blocked hits and trying to bait and evade for an opening doesn't really make a lot of sense, because if you bait and evade for an opening and you stun the opponent, you could have just parried them and stunned them anyway. So it's a little strange, but it doesn't really matter. It's there if you need it, and it is useful from time to time. So there's a rank 3 Mole Man, the short and the long fight. That was 1 minute and 2 seconds. And yeah, the train just keeps rolling here. Almost every single skill champion in the entire game can be taken by NCW. I think actually every single one, because some of them are not defenders. So every single skill champ probably can be handled by NCW one way or another. I'm trying to think of a champion that is maybe incapable of being handled by her, like an Incinerate immune skill champion, so I'm going to look at AMA right now just to double confirm and make sure that I am not talking out of my behind here. But I'm pretty sure that every available skill champion cannot stop NTW. So I'm going to go check AMA right now, or I guess Conchu's Ankh. That's the new thing, is the Conchu's Ankh. But I'm just going to look at AMA because that's fine too. So I'm just looking at AMA right now. I have it pulled up on my iPad here as we just demolished that Kraven like it was nobody's business. That was the short fight Kraven. Now we're moving on to the longer fight Kraven. And the only champion in the skill class that is immune to Incinerate appears to be Night Thrasher. So the only champion that NCW just will not work for, from what I can see, is Night Thrasher. Every other character is seemingly fine for NTW to handle because no one else is immune to Incinerate, at least in the conventional sense. Atuma can go immune, but she can still handle him. And even against Night Thrasher, like NTW, she just deals a solid amount of damage, so she could still work fine. It's just he is immune to Incinerate, so you're not going to be getting the majority of your damage because, well, the Incinerate is the majority of his damage. So yeah, I am glad I checked because, yeah, Night Thrasher being immune to Incinerate, good to know, good to know. And that is the only champion that NTW cannot actually hard counter. But every other skill champion, aside from Night Thrasher, NTW is able to absolutely demolish with no problem. So, we're rounding off the video here. I believe this is either the last fight or the second to last fight for NTW. This was just a massacre. She completely annihilated all of these skill defenders with relative ease, staying at above 80 to 90% health and never letting any of the effects fall off, and all the opponents just tick away and they drop. So, Yeah, this is I believe the last fight that I have here. It's either Crossbones. Yeah, Crossbones is the last one here. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. It's more of just a showcase of how many skill champions NTW can take. Now, obviously, I could go through every single skill champion in the entire game, but a lot of skill champions are attackers and not defenders. I wanted to primarily focus on champions that are either defender focused or dual threats that can work on offense and defense. So Crossbones is one of those champions that is dual threat focused. He's not necessarily the best defender, but he is a defender for sure because of that Purify that he has. And of course, he has Purify, but NTW doesn't care because everything she does is passive. I'm actually going to go for the Gusto here and just go for a straight nuke. And it pays off because Crossbones dies. He ticks away in, I believe, 37 seconds. Yeah. So 37 seconds for that fight. That was the fastest fight of this entire video. And even if I were to have baited that Special 1 or Special 2, the fight would still be less than 50 seconds for that level of health pool. And for health pools like this, the fights only range around a minute. You know, a minute 10 seconds, that's all that you need for NTW to handle this level of health pool. So, again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. If you did, I really hope that you did. Please consider hitting that like button and also hitting subscribe, because both of those things are incredibly helpful for the channel. And I would be greatly appreciative of all of you if you could do that, because we are on the road to 50,000 subscribers. That's a big 50,000 subscribers. I'm about to cross over the 41,000 threshold, so I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you all very much for pushing me way beyond 40k. Like, we shot past 40k almost immediately, so thank you for that. And if you could help the channel out, I would appreciate if you could subscribe. But that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all again very much for watching. This Negasonic Teenage Warhead destroys the skill class showcase. At the time of this recording, I don't exactly know what the title of the video is going to be, so you'll know obviously by the time it gets uploaded. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.